easy drive.
And there's
Yeah,
you got to ride here over Easter weekend and then got sent back. Somebody else brought him back. You know, they have enough. There's enough
Yeah,
kids in
I
the
went
area.
out to St. Francis University in Loretto, and I did the same. There's a lot of people.
Do you want to do the intro and then I'll?
Sure. Again, no printer, so that's okay.
Should we move this back a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, should we turn on, is your microphone on?
Yeah, I think it's, oh, actually, I think it's already.
Oh, hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone, we're gonna get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We would like to give a huge welcome to our new superintendent, Dr. Frank Ranelli. As always, we'd like to remind those joining us in person and for those on Zoom that these roundtable discussions are held with members of our district administration and conducted in the spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. Dr. Ranelli, we're very excited to have you here and joining us this morning, and we love to welcome you to Lower Merion.
Yeah, thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
for being
it.
here.
Yeah. It's been wonderful. You know, I got appointed in January, and since then everybody's been really welcoming. Hello to everybody on Zoom. And since it got to be April and starting to ramp up to where I started, everybody was just incredible. Last week was my first week. I started when nobody was in school, which was great. I had an opportunity to just get my bearings and bring things to my office and things like that. But once again, everybody's been terrific and welcoming, and I have nothing but great things to say.
Great. Welcome. Actually, also before we get started, because we especially have some new faces here, I think we should introduce ourselves because.
Oh, sure.
Sure. My name is Lisa Prosnitz, Cami
Pulsifer.
And we're co-presidents of the Interschool Council. For those of you that are not familiar with us, we invite you to learn more and come and talk with us. The Interschool Council is kind of the bridge organization for our 11 home and school associations. We host these monthly roundtables where we invite in different administrators. Dr. Ranelli, we've had transportation, discussions on restorative practices, on curriculum, library services, I don't know.
Name it. Technology.
Technology, yeah. So they happen monthly on Tuesday mornings here. We also have an evening parent education program where we collaborate with the district to bring in outside speakers to speak on issues such as student mental health, drugs and alcohol, student agency, AI.
We have one coming up this month as unofficial transition. Parents who are current fifth graders will speak to parents of rising fifth graders, talking about tips and tricks to get adjusted to middle school.
So that's just a little bit about us. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Again.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So we'd love to hear kind of how you got you began your career in education, how you got your
Sure.
start.
So I have a bachelor's degree in marketing, and I was selling office equipment with hopes of gaining that experience and moving into the medical sales field. And I was doing pretty well. And there was a couple of month period where I was kind of looking at my boss. I'm like, I just don't know that I want to do that for my life, right? So at the same time, I was coaching a basketball team in my town, and I found myself really working well with the kids. My sister was a teacher, so I decided to go back to school and get my special ed certification. And I spent 7 years teaching special education. Then I became an assistant principal, high school principal for 10 years. Then I was lucky enough to get hired as an assistant superintendent in Piscataway. And I was there for 11 years as assistant superintendent and superintendent. So I've been very blessed. I've had great experiences, great people, and I learned a lot along the way.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you describe the infrastructure in your old school district and what you felt worked especially well there?
Yeah, so we had 14 schools, about 7,500 kids, including 3 preschools. So we've had preschool there for years. So for, again, 14 schools, we had about 7,500 kids. You know, infrastructure is kind of normal. We had a central office team. Each building had a principal, assistant principal, or more. The high school had more assistant principals. And yeah, I think if you think of a traditional school or district, that's what it was like, right? Much like this, about the structure. And I think, you know, you talk about what worked, and a lot of the questions I think that I've been answering here, or the conversations that I've been having, lead back to a consistent person in my seat, right? So I think it's really important, right? So you talk about what worked, and it's the trust in the school system, it's the communication, it's the transparency, it's all of that. So I think that's what works the best. You know, we have a really good, I was able to hire, I was in Piscataway 11 years, so I was able to hire most of my administrative team, which is very helpful, because you get people who really, you know, think like you, and you interview people, and you know, choose people who are gonna be loyal to you, things like that. So by and large, I have a great team here in Lower Merion. I think that we all think alike, on the same page, moving in the same direction. But back to Piscataway, I think that is a huge part of the success, right? There was a calm over the district because, or the community, because the school districts ran really well. But also consistent leadership, right? I was assistant superintendent for 5 years, and then I became superintendent. So everybody trusted me for a long time, even before I became, you know, superintendent. So if you talked about what worked well, I think that's a really important fact.
So what drew you here? What drew you
Yeah.
to Lower Merion?
So I think maybe some of you have heard my conversation. I have 3 kids, and they all went to school in Eastern Pennsylvania. So my wife and myself talk a lot about, you know, jumping over the border here. I don't live far from here. It's only about 30 miles in New Jersey. So we started making that kind of vision sort of a reality, but not yet, right? My girls are still in college, so we're kind of putting the brakes on it. But I was able to get my certification, and you say what drew me to Lower Merion. It's a fantastic district. This place is beautiful, very high achieving, great schools, great people in the town. So you know, that's what drew me here, and I think making the jump to PA, this could not be a better place for me to go.
Welcome. As you may know, the ISC is a parent-led organization that's worked collaboratively with the administration for close to 75 years. How do you envision working with the ISC and with all the parents in the district?
So you'll find a lot about me, and I think one person in this room found out about me this weekend, right? I'm very accessible. I call people back. I make sure that people can hear from me. If it's, and I'll say it this way, if it is the right chain of command, right? The discussion I had with the parent of the weekend, I thought was a superintendent conversation that I needed to have with that person, right? But a lot of times it'll be like, well, did you go to the principal first? And then, you know, and all of that. I believe in the chain of command, because basically if that doesn't happen, you know, it all breaks loose. So, but I think you'll find a lot of me being accessible. I like coming to these meetings. I think it's important. I like being in the schools for events. And there's a couple of questions that I think I'll answer in the same way. But very collaboratively, very accessible. You know, you'll email me. I like picking up the phone. It's just who I am. I think it's important that we have that, you know, voice conversation or face-to-face conversation, so we can't interpret things certain ways.
Can you share your top 3 goals and for coming into our district, and if there are any big changes that are coming?
Yeah, I'll start with the second thing, right?
Okay.
It would be irresponsible for me to come and say, yeah, we're going to change this right now. I think the biggest changes I'm hoping to bring to Lower Merion is consistency in this, right? I think that's really important. I go back to that with every question that I get. I think it's really important. So with that comes one of the goals for me is to understand the culture, is to understand what's important to the community. What was important to my previous district might not be important here at all. And it's important for me to understand that, and lead in Lower Merion the way Lower Merion needs, right? So I think that's really important. Second thing is transparent communication, right? I think it's a really imperative that you all understand the reason for decisions. Whether you not agree with them or not, I could at least justify why the decision is made. Right? We could sit here and there's 20 people in this room, and we could make 5 decisions and they're not great for everybody, but at least there's justification on why. So I think that's one of my goals, right? To make sure you all have, the community has reasons for what we do and why we do it. I think the third goal is to make sure that our policies are in place, that they're all implemented the same across the district. And again, when there's a change in this seat, a lot of times that kind of goes awry a little bit, because people, really good people who are in charge of buildings, want to do things that are really good for their building, with good intent and a good heart, things like that. But we want to make sure that that's happening all in the same way in the whole district. So access is the same, equity is the same, people have the same opportunities. And when it comes to implementing rules, they're done across the district. When it comes to making decisions, it's done the same way across the district. So.
I agree. We know you're just beginning your
Yeah.
tenure, so we're not going to hold you to this answer, but wanting to gauge what your thoughts are. We know you're coming to a time in our district when there's been a lot of change, change with our superintendents, upcoming changes with budgets and finance. And so we're just wondering what your thoughts are on how you might bring the community together and ensure trust between the community and the administration, and just put everyone on the same page.
I'm going to repeat myself, right? I've said a bunch of times that I'm going to be here a while, right? This is the last district I'm going to work for. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I want to finish my career here. I think it goes back to building that trust with time, right? You've had people in this seat who have said the exact same things as I'm saying right now, but have left very quickly after they got here. But that's really the key, to build that trust, to have that communication, to again understand why things are made and why decisions are made and why things are done the way they're done. The communication piece, it's all one big circle that is part of really good leadership. And I've said this to the board during my interview process. None of this is about me. I try to minimize myself in everything, right? It's all about what everybody else is doing, and all about the kids, and all about the successes that the district has. I'm really working for all of you, right? I'm working for all of the people in the district, trying to make sure that the administrators have what they need, and the administrators are making sure that the teachers have what they need, and the teachers making sure the kids have what they need, and the parents have what they need. So I'm really on the bottom of this big triangle, really trying to push up everything that is important. I'm never a top-down person, never about me. You'll see my speeches are very short, if I even speak at all. I know it's important that people hear from me, so that's that part of it I understand. But if it's a ceremony that's not about me or administrators, you'll never hear from me. It's not about me. So I think that's a big key, right? But it all comes back to the longevity that I have here.
I think that will be great. I mean, there is, I think Lower Merion as a school district, we've got the parents, the district, and administration. And I think it's really critical, especially at this point right now, that we all get on the same page.
Sure.
And look forward to.
Yeah, sure. And even the administrators are, wonderful people and really hard workers, are here all the time. I think there's a piece of that just needs, okay, let's all get on the same page.
Yeah, we're
right?
Not right now.
Right.
I mean,
and you can imagine, I mean, it's just, it's just normal. You go into any
Yeah.
organization, a business, a school district, a team that doesn't have leadership that's consistent, you're going to have unrest. I'll put it like that, where people are making decisions with a good heart and a good agenda for the good of the people, but it just isn't in line with everybody else.
So tell us about a day. So we phrased the question as tell us about a day in the life of Dr. Ranelli, LMSD superintendent. Like you drive here, you're 30 miles, and then what happens?
Yeah, so I don't really know, right? I don't know. You got me on my second day, right? But I knowing myself, I'd like to be in schools as much as possible, right? I'll try to get here at early, right? 7:15, 7:30, answer emails, things like that. It's important for the kids to see me. It's important for the teachers to see me. If there's an event at school, it's important for you all to see me. And not because, again, it's about me. It's just about the support that this seat can give to the district, to give to the schools, things like that. So yeah, I understand that there's a lot of meetings here, right? And that's just not my style, right? I think it's really more important for me to be at the buildings. And so as you talk about a day in the life here, it'll kind of morph into good leadership, but at the beginning, I'm sure I'll be meeting with a lot of people, right? Trying to make sure that we get all on the same page. We all get on the same page and how to do that without shocking the system, right? I'm not going to come in here and say, okay, this is going to change. You're going to change. We're doing this with this. It's just not who I am. I'll find out the processes and, work with, again, the great people that are here, and really form how I think leadership should go in any organization. I will tell you that you can't take, at least as far as my leadership style is, I can't take anything that I've done in Piscataway, pick it up and drop it in Lower Merion and expect it to work. It's just a different community with different needs and different people and different wants, different goals, things like that. So, yeah, so I'll say I don't know, but right, it'll morph into, a year from now, you could ask me what my day is like.
We'll ask you that question again in a year. And so I guess for the last two questions before we open it up to everybody here, I'm sure you guys all have questions. We kind of have like a finish this sentence sort of thing.
Sure.
In an ideal world, the parents and community of LMSD would
be good partners, right? Be trusting, understanding. And again, I know that's hard right now because of what you've been through. But really, I think if you try to get it into one sentence, and next question is the same with the school board, I'll answer it the same way. You try to get it into one sentence, right? It's really just good partners that are all moving in the same direction.
do you have any other questions? Okay, I guess we can open it up to questions here. Becca.
Jumped in early for everybody's chance to read that. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, you as
My
well.
name's Becca Block. I'm curious, you mentioned that it's really important to you to understand the culture and what matters to the community. What's your approach when what matters to the community differs? So I'll pick one example just so you have something concrete to think about. For some parents in the community, us being a high achieving or high performing academic district, like you already referenced, is really important. For other parents in the community, there are concerns about the effect that has on mental health, whether or not it's really actually worthwhile, whether or not we're paying attention to the kind of like whole person of students when we put a really high burden on the kind of academic expectations and only kind of touting the top colleges and universities.
Sure.
So for instance, when you run into tensions like that, when you say you're wanting to understand the culture and the needs of the community, what's your preferred way of navigating those kinds of disputes within the community itself?
So my answer to that is, why can't we have both, right? If your example is, well, I'll take your example. Why can't we be both for the kids who need both, right? Again, my background in special ed has helped me tremendously in this. I really feel that, and again, I use my kids as examples a lot, right? They're very different. They had very different needs. We had different opportunities for them. We had different, look, the opportunities were there, right? What they took advantage of was different, right? So I think it's the same type of thing, right? When you talk about students having the opportunity to go to high achieving schools and the pressures there, right? That might be great for their family, but other kids might not be. So really it's a family oriented, I'm not going to say decision, but I think it's why, again, I'll answer, why can't we have both, right? I think education for families is important. I had this conversation with a lot of parents in Piscataway, right? There was a feeling that I'm going to try to have my kid take every AP class possible, right? I had AP teachers saying that the kids were falling asleep because they had 2 hours in class because they had 2 hours of sleep at night. So the hard rock and the hard place of what do we do there, right? So education for parents, education for kids, opportunity and access. My question is, why can't we have both?
And in some cases, I think we can in that example, but I think another example, I mean, like the example that came to my mind was like the walk zone issue where like there was a compromise between having students within a greater radius walking to school versus keeping them bused, and yet
Yeah, sure.
that meant that some
Yeah.
kids are getting to school later, and there's, definitely compromise there. I think we've seen
Yeah, sure.
situations
Yeah.
here where I agree with you, like, I
Not the
think,
resource. Yeah, like
Right.
I think even an example I give it would be like, well, it's a resource, you know, we have more resources
Yeah, I
available
hear
for AP classes or more resources available for, say, a full dual enrollment program where you graduate with an
Yeah.
associate's degree, so college is cheaper, but that's not appealing to like the.
Right. So I understand what you're saying. I just used your example because you gave that. I guess my style would be, I don't make quick decisions when it comes to things that affect a lot of people. So really collect all the information. It would be unfair for me to give any answer to a situation that you've already been through because I haven't lived it with you. But collect all the information, make sure I have input from as many people as possible that it would affect, and be transparent about the decisions and why. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Robin Gowry.
Hi, Robin.
I'm also part of the advocacy. So you talk about transparent communication, but what is transparent communication to you? And like, how will you communicate your decisions to the community when you talked about, hey, I want everyone to know how we came to the decision and know that not everyone's gonna like the decision?
Sure. So decisions that would affect a broader group of people that come down to a district decision and are going to affect multiple schools. It could be in a meeting that I have. It could be something like this. It could be in an email. It all depends on what the decision is. It could be at a board. I mean, obviously the board will know in the board meeting. So it really all depends. I have a feeling I'm going to answer a lot of your questions like that today because it just depends on the situation. I've communicated with Piscataway many letters that affected the community, specifically written by me. On again, things like this on Zoom calls, meetings that people want to come to. Yeah, there's many different ways. It all depends on what it is.
Hi, I'm Cicely. So my question, I love that you've got a background in special education, and I think one of the things that our district does really well or tries to do really well is create a sense of agency among the students in terms of like, like being proactive and taking care of their communication with their teachers or studying, etc. But I feel like that there may be a disconnect in terms of, teaching children, how to study and like some of those skills. Do you have any thoughts around that, like maybe implementing something specifically in terms of teaching kids how to study, like?
Yeah,
time
so
management, like soft
I've had
skills?
experience in doing that in other places. In Piscataway, we brought in an entire freshman seminar course to deal with how to be a person, right? How to study, social media safety, understanding finances, things like that. But I had a very specific opportunity. We were adding a class to the schedule, and it was actually the second district I brought that in. So it would be, but yeah, I understand, and I value that education as well. Just have to see where it fits in and what.
Well, thank you for
welcome.
that. I was more thinking about, middle school or
Yeah,
even at
every
the
level.
end of elementary school, because I think once they get to high school, they're kind of expected to know how they study and what works best for them, and I don't feel like a lot of time is spent on that, so.
Okay. I appreciate your feeling. I don't know that that's not happening or is happening, so I'll have to really get into the ins and outs of what happens. I know the transition years are extremely important. We dealt with them very specifically in Piscataway, where at the end of we had K-3 schools at the end of 3, right? We started treating in the last quarter of grade 3. We started treating them more like fourth graders to try to get them to understand. Our teachers really articulated well with the transition buildings to try to make them understand what was expected in fourth grade and what was taught in third grade, right? Different buildings, different principles, different rules. Kids struggle sometimes when they transition to buildings, right? A new face, a new leader, a new way in the hallways, and new rules, new cafeteria. And some of them take up to 3, 4, 5, 6 months to acclimate. And then you turn around and you're leaving. So it's tough, but yeah, I'm very sensitive to that.
Carol?
Hi, I'm Kara Herman.
Hey, Kara.
I'm president of the Lower Merion School District Committee for Special Education, which for those who don't know, it's a parent advocacy group that's been in existence since 1972. It's a longstanding tradition, and welcome the
Thank you.
attorney for that whole transparent communication thing, and keep that on going. I was just hoping, also knowing that we have some people on Zoom from the special education parent guardian community. Just wanting to hear a little bit more about your background or start with special education and what you have learned and think about currently the special education programming at Lower School District, and if you have any plans or ideas you wanted to share with the community.
Yeah, so no plans yet for anything, right? I would, again, be unfair for me to say any plans. Yeah. My experience in special education, I was a middle school self-contained special education teacher for 3 years, and then I moved to high school for the next 4, all with students with behavioral disabilities. And I found that there's a great reward in being, in many cases, right, a big part of their lives, right? So for me, being a special education teacher was very rewarding. I found also that moving to administration, when I became an assistant principal, I could have more help. I could help more vast of a community. So I've met with some teachers, not a lot, because people were on spring break, and yesterday couldn't get out of my office, unfortunately. But I looked into and spoke to the special ed supervisor, and for all intents and purposes, it's a wonderful program here. You have a lot of offerings. I'll have to have some time to figure it all out, but my philosophy, I guess, rests on that. You know, it'll sound cliche, but you know, all kids can learn. We'll never give up on kids. As the question here is, why can't we have both, right? We'll meet kids where they are and what they need. And make sure that they have a feeling of value. Kids can sit in a room no matter what grade and understand, well, you know, how am I making my classroom better? Why am I liked? You know, how am I making my environment and society better? So those are the things that I think about when I think about all kids, not just special ed.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Molly and then Rich.
You can go first. It's fine. I didn't know.
Rich Lester, I'm a parent in the community as well as school board candidate. So one of the things that you talked about at Piscataway, it sounds like you've had preschool within the district. Can you give more color on sort of how that was funded? Was that purposeful for it to help with the achievement gap that we have a big issue with here? I'm curious if that was.
So in Piscataway, preschool was available before I got there. It was paid by the parents. Okay. It was a full day preschool. The time, and yes, it served a lot of purposes, right? And it wasn't just for Piscataway residents at the time I got there. From the time I got there in my first 5 years as assistant superintendent, I was in charge of preschool. It got to grow a little bit larger. So we had we just had limited space. We rented 2 defunct Catholic school buildings, right? For our space, because we didn't have our own buildings that could fit the amount of classrooms that we had for preschool. It morphed into only Piscataway residents because of space. And then in New Jersey, the governor has this idea that they're going to fund as many preschool kids as possible. So we applied for a grant. In our first year, we had grant students that were paid for by the state. We had like 60 grant students. And by the time I left, I had 650. That got free preschool all day, our teachers, district teachers. So from the time it was a sort of an outside enterprise fund, right? A community education thing. But we moved it into the district under the same contracts, under the same. So we fought, and to answer the other part of your question about the achievement gap, it wasn't specific for the achievement gap, but we felt very strongly if a kid goes to preschool and comes to us, they're a year ahead of what they are because we're with us. Right.
And did the data tell you that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Our first grade teachers, and again, they've had it before I was there, so I didn't know what it was like without it. Right. But the teachers, especially when we went to so many kids, they noticed a big difference when they got to kindergarten and first grade with the kids in our under our education system.
Preschool is just pre-K.
Pre-K 3, pre-K 4, 3-year-old and 4-year-olds before they go to.
And that was standalone funded either by grants or by the parents.
And now there's no parents that pay. It's all funded by the state.
Wow.
So it's only for
Nope.
Nope.
So we all of the people who applied, if they were considered free and reduced lunch, they got in, and then the rest of the people went into a lottery. we had a waiting list and, you know, we worked on that as we could, but
So there was priority given.
Yeah,
to
yep.
Those that need.
correct. Yeah, it was great. It was fantastic.
Danny is about to run out and she's got a very quick
I
question.
just
She
have a
says,
very quick,
Sure.
fun question, because I am the ISC luncheon coordinator. What's your favorite food?
Oh, my God. So I'd like to say candy, if I could say candy, because that is my favorite food. My wife bakes a lot and I really don't eat a lot of the baked stuff. I'd rather just have gummy bears, but, favorite food, I like a lot. Pizza, sandwich, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I am not no,
A favorite
I'm not, I just don't, I can't eat raw onions. That's it.
favorite candy?
Gummy bears are my
Gummy
favorite
bears.
candy.
All right, there we go.
No, so no,
Love gummy bears
I'm not a
for
very
candy.
picky eater. You'll find that I'm a very, just like, I hope I'm exuding to you all. I'm very easygoing. I like to work together. Whatever you need, we're here for. And you know, we really try to make it so it is, as you said before, connection, cooperation, collaboration with respect and kindness.
Love it. Thank you.
Sorry,
Really
bye.
appreciate it.
Sorry, thank you for being patient.
Very patient.
I'm new to it. Welcome.
Thank you.
My name's Molly Shankin.
Hi, Molly. We've met before? All right,
Maybe. I'm the Gladwin Elementary School.
okay,
Liaison
Okay.
for ISA.
got it.
So my question starts here. Last year, I was also an ISC rep.
Okay,
There was a parent of, I guess her student was a junior in high school, and last year the format was a little different. But she had some angst about the fact that her son was writing essays for college and he couldn't write them, and they were terrible.
Okay.
And she was almost irate, you know, because last year, remember, things got heated. But she was upset because she felt like, you know, he or she, I don't know, wasn't learning the writing skills. And I'm sitting here thinking, he's a junior, you know, like, why aren't you paying attention? Like, I'm not judging, but like paying attention all this time. So my daughter last year, third grade, I started paying attention to that because I thought, well, I went to private school, so I got great writing skills. And by the time I got to public high school, I was a pro writer. But I am realizing and asking other people, do they have a writing class here? They don't. And it is important that these kids understand how to write, and they should have some sort of elective. I mean, they have STEM as an elective. They should have writing as an elective where these kids can learn
sure.
skills, because I feel like my daughter has to write papers and they give her something to fill out, but like, it's not done enough and it's not repetitive
Okay, I
enough.
appreciate that.
So I'm just looking, if that was
Yeah.
something that you would look into.
Absolutely.
or
Yeah, I mean,
investigate, I don't know.
it
how
has-
it's in
it's-
middle school or high school.
It's not the first time, I mean, it is the first time it's come to me, but I'll absolutely talk to the ELA supervisors and some English teachers and figure out what's going on. Again, the transition years are important when they come to the next grade, right? When they come to ninth grade, are they finding deficiencies in writing from kids? Right? And then when they go to 10th grade. So I think those rates are important, but I absolutely will look into it.
I think we get a lot of questions about writing and math in
Yes,
particular.
absolutely.
So, yeah. I know there's,
I'll second. the-
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'll third it. Yeah.
Well, I would say.
And-
Fourth, we get a fifth.
Piggybacking on what she had said about the study skills,
Yep.
and like, are they gonna be teaching things about study skills? And I was like, well, that was my same thought about writing skills.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Study skills and balancing your checkbook. I
Yeah,
want them to
absolutely.
learn that in high school.
Yeah,
too.
script. My kids can't read script because they got rid of it in school.
Yeah.
They can't read, handwriting, so I get it.
Do that.
They do it in financial.
They do it in,
algebra,
yeah.
but they have to, that's if they don't take.
But they have to get to
calculus.
financial algebra.
Well, no,
But it's an
they-
elective,
it's an
they
elective.
don't have
They have
to.
to choose it.
Oh, they have
Because
to-
others are taking.
Yeah, so in New Jersey, it's a requirement from the state that kids have financial literacy in ninth grade. Actually in high school, but we delivered it in ninth grade and it's all about exactly what it says, financial literacy. I think it's a little lost in ninth grade because kids just kind of get through it. Probably should be in 11th grade. But
Before college.
I think that
Right,
it's a
well, yeah,
change
so-
coming to our district,
Yeah,
that
so-
financial literacy.
I
it's
feel
important.
like I've heard that too.
And the writing is important too. We've had, again, I've had experience in electives in writing on the college level. Kids get to a credit from Rutgers University, things like that. So yeah, I do understand. But to get to that point, right? Kids are going into that because they like it. But to get to that point is the tricky part.
I mean like a creative writing class.
No,
I just mean
it's
like
not, it wasn't creative
understanding-
writing. It wasn't,
setting up an
Structural
essay,
writing.
Yep.
Structure, how.
Yeah,
to
no,
do
I know
it
what you
for
meant.
Any kind of paper,
yep,
yeah.
I know what you meant.
'Cause They
Yeah,
don't even know where to start.
thanks for that info. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. No, you're welcome.
I know there's a question online, and I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Is it Uderka or Udersa? Lopez Watt?
Hi. Yes, that was perfect.
Which way, which one? Because I said it both ways.
Uderka. Uderka is
Uderka,
fine. Yes. Welcome, Dr. Ranelli. I'm the parent of 2 children with special needs here in Lower Merion School District. And I know everyone has touched a little bit on this, so I just wanted to add a general and specific question on, we appreciated Dr. Yanni's focus on putting the children first and supporting children with special needs and how we can support them in accessing all areas of student life and equity and all the different opportunities available through the district for them. How do you plan on continuing to address these important priorities and supporting the needs of all the areas of special needs kids?
An understanding and learning of what's happening now, and what's worked and what hasn't worked, or what there has been some questions about. That's the first step in supporting that. And I think my philosophy about every kid is important, and we're not just data points. Really important to me. So it falls right in line with first understanding what's going on here. You could look at it, you could look at the website, you could look at test scores, you could look at information in the news, but you never really know what's going on until you lived it here. So that's the first step in supporting all that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other online?
Other questions?
I have a quick follow-up.
Oh,
about-
wait.
This is just
She
a
has a
quick
question.
one.
Wait, Kim,
Oh.
please, yeah.
Okay.
No, please.
I was, please, yeah.
Every activity has its own agenda
Mhm.
or challenges.
Not agenda, needs. You okay?
Yeah, so, well, in the global budget, you can tell us, what was the biggest, challenges or the main points in your previous, school district and how you handled it?
Main points or challenges in the district. I think the achievement gap was something that was a thing that we really focused on. And the way we approached it or attacked it was through access, was through extra programs that kids could have access to. And we were lucky enough to be able to do those things at no cost to families. Some of that, and that's one part, but I think it's more about the access and understanding, right? I think it's important that districts or people or families kind of look at where they are. A lot of people don't want to, not a lot of people, that's unfair to say. Some people, right, don't want to really kind of look at themselves or the families in the mirror and say, okay, this is where we are, this is what we need, right? I think that's really important, the education for families, what's available for kids. I also think mental wellness was something that we had a problem, again, wrong word, but had more an uptick in incidents about. So we did a lot of things for wellness for staff as well as students. We partnership with Rutgers University, did a lot of things for the families in the district. We have a wellness committee for the staff. We have, again, a staff almost as big as this. Really try to take care of people, which is a philosophy of ours.
Used to have a wellness committee. We would love to bring it back. I'm looking at Becca because she joined the ISC as our wellness committee rep, but we, haven't had a meeting in over a year.
That was a great question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so again, challenges all over, but we dealt with them in the vein of taking care of people and really trying to give people what they need if we could, right? If we could, and it doesn't fit in the system. I will say that as much as we want to be available and do everything, school systems are not a one-stop shop for everything. So we have to find the resources and the partnerships within the community, within the county, with the MCIU, colleges that are around, things like that. So.
And it sounds like you had partnerships with Rutgers. Were there other groups that you had partnerships with?
Yeah, so we had partnerships with Rutgers University, with Kane University, Montclair University, a lot of dual credit things like that. We actually 2 years ago, which was fantastic, actually, let's say 5, right, when COVID hit and we came out of that. There was a teacher shortage, obviously, everywhere. So we were able to, what a big desire of ours was that teachers, people who lived in the community wanted to teach in the community. So we started a future teachers club. We had an advisor, and we had overwhelming amount of kids show up to this club. And now we morphed into, we have a full club, that's recognized by the district, and, advisor gets a stipend, things like that. But we also have dual enrollment with Kane, where they get credits for their teaching license, right? College credits for a teaching program. And if they maintain a certain grade point average in Piscataway, they get automatically accepted into Kane in the teaching program. Again, with the hopes, we can't tell them they have to, with the hopes that they want to come back and give to their community. We loved teachers who graduated from Piscataway High School. It was great.
What is it called?
Future Teachers Club. Yep.
How did the partnership with Rutgers work on the mental health?
Oh, so it's great. It's a fantastic partnership. So they had postdoctoral students, and they set up an office in our high school. And their postdoctoral students were the counselors, the mental health counselors for our community. No charge to our community at all. It cost the district quite a bit of money, but we thought that it was worth it. And kids can go, families can go, they make appointments. It was run by the doctoral chair for the program, who was on site as also. And again, it was right in our high school, night hours, day hours. We thought that was a great program that we had, that partnership with Rutgers.
Thanks.
Cicely, and then
I can go.
unless someone else has another question that hasn't asked one yet.
So I loved what you said about, making sure that all the schools had the same access to the district in terms of access, equity, rules, like everything was practiced the same. In an ideal world, that would be awesome. I think that in some of our schools, I don't know if it's, maybe there's more parents that are able to volunteer more, or if there's just, just more of an active
Okay.
parent constituency, but for instances where, like one school has but another school doesn't have it, do you have any experience helping to try to find funds
We
to
do.
fill in the blank?
I do personally. So, and it's with partnerships, it's with anonymous donations, it's with me buying things for kids. Yeah, I mean, we're very creative. We figure it out. And again, I need to live that here a little bit to figure out, but I think if there's a will, there's a way to make sure that kids have the things that they should have.
I think that the parents are very, like every parent wants the best for their
Sure.
child.
It's your most prized possession.
Yeah, so, sometimes the loudest voices don't always represent the largest constituency of parents.
Okay.
How do you plan to kind of weed through that?
I laugh because I'm just a regular person. I hope I come off like that. I don't want to be disrespectful in any way in answering that question, right? But I think putting in perspective the issues that people have, right? The answers that people get, make sure they're consistent, make sure the chain of command is consistent. I talk about access to me, but it's important that, again, we understand I'm only one person, right? They have to go to the principals, they have to go to the teachers. So it's that's how I kind of weed through that. And there won't be people who need things that I don't know about.
So if you've got principals that are kind of running their own show, you're gonna
I'll figure all that.
You talked about a class called How to Be a Person.
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
is
so-
How to Be a Person?
So we
Just curious.
yeah, so
People
We
like
have a
it,
class
so-
on how to be respectful.
yeah, well, no, that was part of it. Well, no, that was
Yeah.
part of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's called the freshman seminar class. It was a full year class. It focused on study skills, so social interaction. It studied on how to be a good citizen, what that means, right? Sitting in the classroom and being a respectful person is being a good citizen, is making that environment better. I don't think a lot of kids understand their civic responsibility, just to the place that they're standing. Never mind running for office or this or that, or voting or things like that. So it was a full curriculum, a full year, every day. We had junior and senior mentors who went through the program as well. That came in and said, grabbed me by the ear and said, no, you don't do that. The mentors were chosen by us. They didn't just apply and get in, right? They had to apply, they had to be interviewed, that they go for training. It was an honors course for them, so they got honors credit. So it was important for them. And every kid by policy, every freshman by policy had to take this course, which was not met very well with some families, right? Because how dare you say I can't take another AP course? Right.
And this was you said it met 5 days, because we have an
Oh yeah, 5
advisory
days a
right
week.
now.
Yep, it was a class that got 3 credits. And 3 credits for the 3 or 5? 5 credits. No, 3. 5 is 5. 3 is a college class. That met every day all year. Well, Piscataway had an AP block, but so every other day, but it was a full year course.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
We have space for an
Interesting.
advisory here, but it's.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very unique opportunity that I had in this particular space, because when I got there, we only had 7 courses that we offered to our high school kids a year. And for me, that was we put our kids at a disadvantage right away from almost every other high school in the country having 8. So they weren't able to take the band electives. They weren't able to take those extra science classes. They weren't able to, so our band was starting. So just the other courses that make them well-rounded people.
Yeah, there was a compromise there.
Yeah, so we were able to redo the schedule. We added the 8th course a year, but I stole one of those and made freshman seminar class. Yeah, it was important.
Molly and then Becca.
After you accepted the job here, and I'm sure we did the research prior, what were some things that you had heard? As she had said, that were loud that you wanted to address and work on for this district. I mean, there's a lot of things.
There is, and I what I heard all filtered into consistent leadership. And I don't mean to, it's not a cop-out answer.
No,
It really isn't. It's just everything that I've heard, and the things that needed attention could have not needed attention if there was a consistent leader who was good for Lower Merion.
and you said that, because I wrote down, you said you
Yeah.
plan to stay.
I do.
You're not gonna leave.
There's not another just,
No.
you
said long.
I'm a
Yeah.
notary, I can notarize it.
yeah,
And that's
because,
I mean, I don't know why.
so I didn't take the decision to come to Lower Merion lightly.
Okay.
And I obviously, so I'll out him a little bit. A previous superintendent that you had was a superintendent in my district in Piscataway as well. So we spoke a little bit. So again, I had some background, I had some information. So I didn't take it lightly, and I don't think it's fair for me to come here and not be as committed as you all need, as the community needs, especially with what you've been through. So I've made the decision with my family. It wasn't just my decision, my wife, my kids, everything, that I've made the commitment to be here. And will it be hard some days? Of course. Right? Will there be things that we have to react to that aren't great? Of course. It's, it's the nature of the game. But I've made the commitment to say, I want to be here. I didn't take it lightly. I understand what the district needs. And it's not necessarily Frank. It's just the position is really important to the community. Right. And I think I have the right attitude and approach that would fit well here. But again, so listen, I can't promise I don't get hit by a bus tomorrow, but I promise my commitment is here.
Please don't.
Yeah. Right. But my commitment is here. Even if it gets hard. With the hope that, and I won't use as a caveat to say, well, if it doesn't, I won't be here. But with the hope that we could communicate with kindness, right? With respect, even if we disagree. And a lot of times that doesn't happen anymore.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have 2 completely different questions, just pick one.
Okay, can I just say I have 10 minutes and I have to get over to the high school.
Okay, all right, so you can pick which one of these.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is obviously it's a, kind of old adage of what's measured gets treasured, and I'm wondering what you think is most important to measure, whether or not it's something that we're currently measuring, the type of things that you want to measure and track as a superintendent. The other totally optional question is what can you talk about there being a lot of dual credit and other partnerships with.
I'll take
obviously
I'll take them both.
colleges and universities.
Let me take them both.
But what parents can do to support, I would love to see more
Sure.
of that kind of thing happen.
Let me take them both really quickly. What I treasure, I've said this a million times about my kids, right? They could be, I have great kids. My wife did a fantastic job staying home and raising them, and with the support that I could give her and this and that. The best compliment I can get from my kids is that they're good people, right? Is that they're kind, is that they can interact with adults well. I've said this a lot as well, also, even to my son, right? You getting an honors level algebra 2 course or whatever it is, right? You getting a C in that course is not going to determine how successful you are in your future, right? So I value that. I think it's really important that we value and measure, if we can, right? What kind of people we're producing into society, right? I also think it's important to measure specifically, and that's more of a feel-good question. That's how do you measure somebody being nice? It's important to measure people who graduate, not if they graduate, but where they go and how well they do. Okay. How long it took them to graduate. A 4-year program, right? Some people go for their masters and doctorates and things like that, but how long it took them, right? Some districts will boast, oh yeah, we have 98% of our kids going to college. Well, how many are ready, right? You talked about English, you talked about writing, right? How many are ready to go? How many are ready with themselves? How many are confident enough to go to a college setting and be ready to interact with them and teachers and be ready for the struggles that they're going to get, right? Because mom and dad can't do it in college, right? They'll do it up to 12th grade and some do, right? But they can't do it in college, right? How many of those are ready? So I'd like to start to measure that, right? Where our kids go to college. And listen, there's many things, but you think the things that are most important to me, right? People interacting in society as well as they could, right? And with respect and being, having a stance for what they believe in, but doing it the right way, right? And also the 4-year, 5-year graduation rate of our kids in college, and if they were ready. So you talk about kids going to Villanova, St. Joe's, Penn. Can I get into some of those teachers and find out if their writing was ready, if their math was ready, and really kind of figuring out what they need us to adjust. You talk about dual programs. I don't think parents really could do a lot. It's really me sitting down with the people who are in charge. And if I need people, I absolutely will ask. I don't have any shame in asking people for help. But at the outset right now, again, me being on the job 6 days, 5 days, but that's my goal is one of those within a couple of years to make sure kids have that access as well.
Actually, I'm remembering that Dr. Mumin, one of the things that he did in November of his first, well, he was here a year, but was have a session with some district alumni, like,
Yeah,
kids that had
important.
graduated.
Yep, it's important to find out how successful they were and how ready they were when they left us. Just like I, have the 5th grade teachers talk to the 4th grade teachers. How ready were they when they got to 5th grade?
Mhm.
Well, when we release them to the world, how ready are they? Right? Are they all, focused on I have to go to 4-year college just because that's what's expected here? We had a big push for kids in non-college bound tracks, right? Kids who just college wasn't for them, and that's perfectly okay. We need tradesmen, we need drivers, we need everything. So we had a job fair, sort of college fair with non-college bound professions. We had 60 non-college bound professions and we had 300 kids walk through, juniors and seniors, just to see the option, right? College is extremely expensive, right? Middlesex County College was a huge partner of ours, right? And then in turn, Rutgers was a huge partner of theirs. So it all kind of flows into figuring out what the community needs, figuring out what kids need. And Piscataway was, we figured out what they needed and we attacked, right? I'm also, and I will say this, I'm a big proponent of doing the research so you don't have to do the research again in 2 years, right? Picking programs that that are right for the community, that are right for the kids, and doing them really, really well, right? So you're not changing your English program every. I'm not saying anything about Lower Merion. I don't know that, right? But so you're not changing an English program or a math program because it really wasn't that great, right? And I'm also not a big proponent of buying the next best thing that's out there, or getting this program and giving it to the teachers, getting this program. Before you know it, they're like, well, what do you want me to do? Right? So again, doing the research, doing what we have to do well, and really practicing it and doing it well. 4 minutes.
I just wanted to say that I really love what you had to say about transparency.
Thank you.
And communication, and I'm really excited to see what you do.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, Trent, the communication piece isn't gonna be great for everyone, you know, my style. But I promise you, you'll know when the decision is made, and why. If you have a question of why, and I made the decision, call me. You know, except for snow days, there's no right answer. There's no right answer. So it won't be great for everybody and there's no right answer. So I make that decision and I'll, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, right.
They can go to school.
Yeah, so I'll make those decisions and I don't think about them again because there's nothing you can do about it. But yeah, so I promise you, you'll know, or if you have a question on why, call respectfully and I'll answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I enjoyed all of your questions and thank you to people online who took the time. That's really important that we're here together.
We appreciate you being
No
in.
problem. No
It's early
problem.
on. I mean,
No problem. If I can't be, then I'm in the wrong place.
Thank you very much.
So, we haven't, yeah.